and getting ourselves situated on the different platforms. So if you need any help with Chinese or Korean translation, you should go to Xiaotong or YouTube. So I am going to make sure that we are online live in those places. Hi, everybody. So good to see all of you. Tuesday Talks is wonderful, and I'm so glad that you all are able to join every week. We have lots lined up. Today is a great session. I know a lot of you have been asking about UC, so I'm glad that we can talk about the UC application and how there are similarities and there are differences with the Common App. So we're going to talk about that today. But before we do that, just a few nuts and bolts. We will be playing Spot Mr. View today. So if you see Mr. View in my window, take a screenshot and email us and you'll get a free t-shirt. And you should share it on your social media. And so look carefully. He'll be in my screen window. So you want to make the gallery so that you can see the speakers, okay? Also, just a reminder, it is time to give your high fives. So if you have not done so already, if you've already done it, great, good job. If you haven't done it already, after this talk, go into your InitialView.com/portal login, and then you're going to look for all those schools, and you're just going to assign 5 high fives. All that means is you're saying, school, I loved hearing you talk during Tuesday Talks, and I want to know more information on how to engage. So make sure you get that done so that you can hear back from the school in time to maybe even apply. And once again, thank you so much to our sponsor schools. Again, we could not be doing Tuesday Talks without you. And we thank you so much for helping us spread the word to your students, to your counselors, to your families. Keep doing it. This will keep going. Admissions officers actually really want to do the Tuesday Talks, and we want to make sure that students are watching and learning. So make sure you keep doing that. And thank you once again. So without further ado, I want to say welcome to our lovely guests. They are at California schools, but not all of them are actually based in California. And so I'm really grateful for the different time zones. And West Coasters, thank you for getting up super early for this talk. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And if you have questions, we do want to get to them. So as soon as you have a question, even if we are not done with the talk, go ahead and put them in the Q&A so that we know that that's a question and we can maybe fold it into our presentation or get to it at the end. All righty.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Gloria, for hosting us again to talk about the UC applications and also the team at InitialView. I know you guys worked very hard to make this happen with all the translation. So kudos to you guys. And then, of course, I'm very happy to be with my colleagues today to talk to you a little bit about the UC applications. My name is Sam Lee, and I'm from University of California, Davis. I am an assistant director of international missions at Davis, and this is my 10th year celebrating with UC Davis. So I actually went to Davis myself. I got my undergrad there as well. So definitely bleeding blue and gold is. So a little bit about Davis. Davis is a college town. So many of you know that the UCs have 9 undergraduate campuses and Davis being one of them. So we do have different locations and all that. And obviously Davis is in the city of Davis. I want to say 9 UC campuses, 9 personality, and we're going to tell you all about it today. Just a little bit about Davis. We are a college town. So what that means is that we have about 70,000 people live in Davis, more than half of them are students. So you could kind of see very strong sense of community, 800 student clubs, over 10,000 jobs and internship opportunities every year. So also a very strong student government with a $14.5 million US budget. So if you're looking for things that with a strong sense of community and also located close to San Francisco, things like that, definitely look into UC Davis. And also I want to say you can't go wrong with any of the UCs. We all are great schools.
All right, then I'll just jump in. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny from UC Riverside. I'm an international program specialist focusing on international recruitment and other programs. So just like Sam said, if you have any questions, please feel free to type in the text box and we'll respond to you once we see the questions. So I actually wanted to start off by introducing certain values that UC Riverside represents. So these are being unique, committed, and being real. At UC Riverside, even our history is unique, that we didn't start off as an higher education institution, but as a citrus experiment station, and more specifically as an agriculture operation center from the UC region starting from 1907. So our research has existed for over 100 years and has revolutionized the citrus industry. So for those who are not familiar with California, citrus is really a big thing in Cali. And we have been in existence for over 60 years as a higher education institution. Our commitment, of course, as a public institution is not only the betterment and continuation of your education, but more helping students to inspire students and to get them exploring in 150 and more majors and minors. So right now, we have over 25,000 students at UC Riverside, and that number continues to grow. So right now we have close to almost 2,000 international students from 88 countries, and also close to 1,200 faculties as well. That about equates to a 21-to-1 student and to faculty ratio. UC Riverside is one of the 3 campuses that has undergraduate business school, and the others are UC Berkeley and Irvine. One of the other most attractive thing about UC Riverside is that we offer a unique scholarship program that is targeting toward all out-of-state and international freshmen and transfer students. Eligible students are automatically considered for these non-resident achievement scholarship with the acceptance to UC Riverside. So students can receive the highest amount for like about $4,500 each quarter with a GPA of 3.9, or $1,000 each quarter for a GPA of 3.5 and above. So this is about UC Riverside. I'll pass it on to B.
Well, good morning, everybody. Hi, thank you again to Gloria and InitialView for hosting these amazing Tuesday talks. I just think it's such a great opportunity to connect with all of you and to answer your questions and to introduce a little bit more about the UC system. My name is Beatrice Atkinson-Myers. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions Outreach and Recruitment for UC Santa Cruz. I am a very proud alumna of the campus as well. And I have had the pleasure of working for undergraduate admissions for my entire degree, or my entire career, I should say, at UC Santa Cruz. What is so great about today is that you have such a diverse number and type of UC campuses represented, from UC Davis to UC Riverside to my campus, UC Santa Cruz, which is actually located on the California Central Coast. We are about 75 miles south of San Francisco and 30 minutes away from Silicon Valley. So we're so lucky that our location gives us such a wonderful opportunity for our students to connect in both a beautiful location right on the Pacific Ocean and directly next to industry, where you can actually find a huge number of internships and undergraduate research opportunities. We have over 69 different programs of study at UC Santa Cruz. Some of our most popular majors are definitely going to be in engineering, computer science, computer game design. These are 2 of our most popular majors. But we don't just do engineering. We have an amazing marine biology, coastal sciences campus, and we have really particularly strong business management economics, as well as film and digital media. So these are all some of our most popular programs at UC Santa Cruz. Similar to UC Riverside, we also offer an undergraduate Dean's Award specifically for our international and our out-of-state students. So this is an award that is going to be given to you automatically if you apply to UC Santa Cruz and you are admitted. You'll be automatically considered for this undergraduate Dean's Award, which is up to $40,000 for over 4 years for our first-year students. So really a great opportunity at UC Santa Cruz. What I think is most unique about my particular campus, aside from our amazing location, is our truly deep sense of community and nurturing for our students. We really are an undergraduate campus. That's 17,000 undergraduates and only about 2,000 graduate students. So as an undergraduate student, you have this incredible access to do research and to be nurtured in your interests in a beautiful location. So loving the opportunity to connect and can't wait to share more information. Thanks, everyone.
All right, so then I'll just start off by introducing a little bit background about the UC system that I believe everyone is already being familiar with it. So the UC system is founded in 1869 and is one of the largest university systems in the world, offering undergraduate and graduate programs across the states. In the picture, we are now showing 9 undergraduate campuses, and the 9 campuses enrolled for over 250,000 students. We have campuses across the state offering different settings to foster students' educational and professional exploration and discovery. UC as a whole offers a range of options to meet students' needs and expectations for their college environment. Therefore, UC encourages students to apply broadly to the university. And really, no matter which of our campuses a student graduates from, they will have the prestige of earning the UC degree. Each campus will complete our own individual review of the application, which means that we are going to review the information in the application and select students without asking what the other campuses have decided. So for instance, like Riverside will not call Davis and Santa Cruz and then ask if they have admitted a certain students. Each campus selects students independently. And next slide, please. So right now on the screen, we are going to go over going over the timeline and the information about the actual fees. So UC does not have an early action or early admission decision process. The UC application is available starting from August the 1st. So it's available right now for any of our seniors who are actually in the process of applying. You are able to start filling it out now, but students cannot submit it until November the 1st. We will start and send out the decisions by the end of February or the beginning of March. There is just one application for all 9 undergraduate campuses, but there's a fee for per campus that you apply. There will be $80 for any students who are international and $70 for US citizens or permanent residents. So on the next slide, we are showing a screenshot of our application. So next slide, please. Thank you. Students should get a general preparation before filling out an application. Be sure to have your student compile materials ahead of time, including unofficial transcripts, academic records of previously completed, current, or planned courses at all institutions, awards and honors, non-classroom activities, volunteer employment timelines, including hours and your job or responsibilities. For international students, you will also need the test scores and test date for language test. The screenshot here is just shows how an application really looks like. We have revised our applications for students to better understand what information are looking for. On the right-hand side, you will see a navigation bar with all the sections in the application. So there are 8 sections. When students complete each section, there will be a check mark appear. This should be easier for students to read and use. And remember that students can complete any sections in any order. However, students should complete the full personal information section first, and it will provide more information for the following steps. So now let's look at the 8 sections in the application. And next slide, please. So today we won't have time to go over all the details in the application form today. So I will just briefly highlight a few things, and this should help you to better filling out the form. So the first is about your about you section. So it collects information about your demographic backgrounds and your family information. From this section, we want to fully learn about the environment of where you grew up and learning about the context of your background. In the campuses and majors section, you'll get to choose the campus that you wish to apply for. As students consider which campuses they are hoping to apply for, there's things that needs to be think about, like the location, the size of the campus, the resources and opportunities that provide to at each campus. It is also very important for you to think about the majors that offered. Not every UC has the same majors, although we do share a lot of common ones, but we don't all have the identical majors. So we definitely encourage students to apply broadly and do research for all of our campuses. And academic history is very straightforward, is where the application readers reviewing students' academic records and performances, and to see how it meets our A2G requirements, GPAs, and etc. For exam score, this section is for your APs, IB, A-level scores, and now SAT and ACT, everyone knows that these are test-free for applying to UC. For activities, awards, and PIQs, we will elaborate a little bit more today, but just to emphasize this, these sections are value-added opportunities for students, and it's important that students help application readers understand the students' role and contributions in these activities. So, and also remember that in the new application form, students can enter multiple activities from the same category rather than being limited to only 5 in each, like past years. And the last part that I want to emphasize on is to use the additional comments wisely, to provide information that you do not have the chance to include elsewhere in the application, such as explaining about your great progress in your grades or clarifying some parts of the applications. But this section cannot be used to respond to additional PIQ questions. All right, so next slides, please. So before, in the previous page, I mentioned a few tips for filling out an application, and there's a little bit more that I would like to emphasize here. For international students, please do not translate your academic course titles or convert the grading scale. You can use the additional comment area to provide more information about it, but just do not translate your course titles. For students who took or plan to take external exams like IBs, report your subjects and grades on the international exams page, which is under the test score tab. And for PIQs activities, again, these are really important to help us better know you as a person besides the grades and scores. This is because every student is considered in the context of their own environment, which includes, but is not limited to school, families, and geographic regions. Students are also considered within the context of the applicant pool of each campus. And the last tip that I would like to provide to everyone today is that we strongly encourage you to begin completing the application as early as you could. You should plan multiple time blocks to work on your application rather than just trying to complete it all at once, because there's so much things that you need to fill out, and really review it before you officially submit your applications. Next slide, please. So on next slide, it's a very straightforward requirements for international students for their English proficiency requirements. Students who will complete fewer than 3 years of high school in United States or who are not native English speakers are required to demonstrate English proficiency, most frequently by submitting TOEFL or IELTS, and right now also Duolingo as well. And TOEFL score reports can be sent to one campus, and the score will be shared within all our 9 campuses. IELTS scores, however, must be submitted to each campus individually. Some other tips for international students is UC has considered differences of each country's education system and has set expectations and requirements specifically to your home country. So these requirements are also listed on our website. So please do make sure that you meet these high school or A2G requirements before you apply. You can check it yourself through our website to make sure that you meet all the requirements. All right, then I'll pass on to Beach for the 13 factors of the comprehensive review.
Okay, well, first off, I just want to say thank you so much for everybody who's already been posting questions into the chat. I've been trying to answer those as quickly as they've been coming in. Keep doing that. That is why we are here. Jenny and San and I all want to be able to answer these questions for you and give you as much information as possible. So thank you for doing that. As Jenny was talking about, we in the University of California look at multiple factors. Sorry. Anyway, so we look at multiple factors when we are reviewing a student's application. So all of our campuses are going to use a process that we refer to as comprehensive review. And different campuses may use different forms of comprehensive review, but essentially they all follow these principles. is that we're going to look at these 13 different academic and non-academic factors to review a student's achievement within the context of their educational environment. So we're going to talk much more about what that means and how we get that information with SAN and when we go into the PIQ section. But the important thing to understand about comprehensive review is that we are truly looking at both the student academic achievement within their context of their education and their non-academic engagement and really their motivation and their ability to have sustained interest in activities and sustained leadership in their different activities. So you can see the list here that we outline from our GPA to the types of classes, the number of classes that you've taken, and then your particular performance, maybe in an academic subject area, if you've been really, really, really strong in music or math, for instance. And then those non-academic criteria, so the activities that you've been in, and again, we're going to get into that in a lot more detail in a second. Just know that regardless of everything, we have never used a single factor in making an admissions decision. And this was before the UC system became test-free. So you can see that one of the things that is not listed here are our standardized tests. So the University of California is officially test-free through fall of 2025. And really what that means is even if you were to submit your SAT scores, we would not see them in the application and we would not consider them as a part of your admission. So we are looking at all of these other factors though in making our decision to UC. So next slide, please. So I think the natural question for families is, well, what does it mean to be test-free? And what does that change? How has that changed UC admissions in any way? And I think the important thing to understand, as I explained, is fundamentally, it hasn't really changed UC admissions because we were always using a comprehensive process to review and select our students to UC. So a few of the slight changes that we across our UC system have looked at in being test-free have been to really do even more in-depth training for our readers, those individuals who are hired and trained and consistently tracked and qualified to read applications, all applications from anywhere in the world. So that training has become even more in-depth and nuanced. We've also looked even more closely about the academic trajectory of a student. So what types of classes they've taken, how many classes, how they've done in those courses, and again, their extracurricular activities. And then finally, we are looking really closely, and our faculty care a lot about how students are prepared in math and English. And so they're looking specifically a little bit more closely at those classes that you've been taking in math and in English and your overall marks. So just a few other things in terms of key reminders that we're going to get into in more detail, and that will become very clear when we talk about the PIQs. One is what's most meaningful for us at UC, really, truly, is to see a student who has challenged themselves, who has really gone into the topics that they're most interested in. So if you're a student who's truly passionate about art and music, that you have explored that interest both academically and possibly not academically, and that passion really comes through in your application. You definitely want to use the additional comments section really thoughtfully to give us more context to your educational environment. So context could mean things like, how many courses you could take in a particular semester, whether you had access to international baccalaureate or advanced placement courses or of any type. Anything that helps us better understand your academic environment that allows us to understand and place your achievements kind of in a much more personalized way. And then finally, and this is a perfect transition, draft your PIQs. Take your time with them. They are not essays. They're short. You want to revise them. You want to be really thoughtful about them. And you want to give us good, concrete examples. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sam to talk more in detail.
All right, thank you, B. So before moving on to PIQs, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the activities and awards. I see that students are asking questions like, how can I actually stand out on the pool of application? Because the UC application, we did have a 16% of increase of overall applicants last year. So I understand that you're a bit nervous, you're a bit thinking about how am I supposed to stand out, right? Like what my colleagues, Jenny and also Beatrice was saying, that you stick with your curriculum, whatever your high school is offering you, whatever curriculum, AP, IB, A level, Gaokao, Korean national exams, whatever they are, stick with it. Okay. If you're studying IB, don't think I'm going to take some, AP exams and that will increase my chance. Don't do that. Okay. Stick with your high school curriculum is very important. Okay. Because we want you to do well and focus on, your school curriculum. With that said, going to activities and awards, you can see pretty much anything that we consider that uses outside of classroom is something that we want to see. So if you're telling us that, well, I have some family commitment that I got to take care of my grandparents after school, or I have younger siblings that I have to take care of, and that's taking up most of my time on the weekend, I can't do any volunteering. Put it on your extracurricular activities because that's what you do outside of classroom, right? If we don't put anything there, we might just assume that you don't do anything, with your time, or you're missing the opportunity to tell us that. So with that, anything regarding to, sports, volunteering, art, competition, or any of your hobbies, it doesn't have to be relating to your major. So you don't have to do anything. Say you're interested in pre-med, you're like, oh, I'm going to volunteer at the hospital and things like, or a clinic. You don't have to do that. We always tell students that do something that you're interested in, do something that you're passionate about. It's very, very important that you actually are able to do that. So because when you do that, you will be able to use those to answer some questions in your personal insight question, which I'm going to talk in a little bit. But as you can see on this list, any clubs, any internship, any hobbies, any community service, whatever they are, those are useful for us. Okay, so tell us what your commitment is. Like Jenny said, however many hours, however many, time that you spend in it. Next slide, please. To tell you a little bit, this slide is a little blurry for on a purpose because this is like an actual applicant. So we do want to, make sure this is only used for Tuesday Talk for InitialView this time. So you can see this student is listing the activities, and on the left-hand side, it's the name of the title of their position of the activities, and then on the right is the student talking about what they do. Okay, this is a nice list. You can see that students have different interests. They're interested in music, they're interested in photography, they're a director of publicity. They're doing some really good things, right? They're also listing what they have done. I attended photography events every 2 weeks, took photos of the arboretums, blah, 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 right? Can you go to the next slide, please? While this is another student talking about the activities, you can see the same again. On the left-hand side is a list of, activities name. And then the student actually were able to list some of the things they actually do instead of telling us that I attended sessions or, this is the students that actually taken the opportunity to further explain what those activities means, right? And they also give us some context of the background. So for example, the second activity, the student is a house captain, and they were elected leading 250 students. So this tells us, this is not a school with 30 students, that this is a student leader that actually lead 250 students. So this gives us a little more background of what activities, what the quality is like and things like that. So, and also students, for example, for touch rugby, right? The student talk about touch rugby is actually something that I've never played before. And, I have done this, and just kind of tell us a little bit of growth from there. So this is, I would say this is a pretty solid list of a good example of extracurricular activities because students are not just listing of things that they've done. They're also explaining what the activities mean to them. and how are they committed to it, and how are they passionate for it. So I hope that this gives you an example of comparing, like a more added value kind of list of activities for us comparing to just listing things. And the next part I want to talk about is the personal insight question. So if you have any questions, I would strongly recommend you to use the Q&A button instead of the chat button, because chat just keep going out and we won't be able to actually, keep track of it. So use the Q&A button. We'll be able to get to your questions once we're done with the presentation. All right, thank you. So personal insight questions, 8 questions. You get to pick 4 of them. If you go to the UC application website, you'll be able to see all the 8 questions. It's there. We haven't changed the questions. We have like very slight updated every year, but the questions is pretty much the same from last year. So 8 questions, you're gonna pick 4 to answer. All questions are equal. So, there are some questions that are more popular, but popular doesn't mean that it's a better question to answer. Okay, so don't forget. Answer questions that you feel most likely you are associated with, that you have examples to give. And very importantly, like Beatrice said, PIQ is not creative writing. So none of us are English teachers. We read your application, review your application. We'll like it if you can spell. That's a very strong, that's something that is important when you go to college, but there's always spell check, right? So make sure you proofread them. Make sure you have someone that you trust, review it for you, proofread it. Think of it as an interview. So say one of us are asking you those questions. How would you answer them? You will be giving us example, you're giving us background information, but not too much of background information, right? There's a reason why we call it a personal insight question. We don't call it a family insight question. So don't tell us all about your family. We know you love them, okay? You don't have to talk about them. Talk about yourself. Personal insight questions is a time for you to shine. So really, really talk about yourself, answer the questions, give a specific concrete example. And like my colleagues were saying, additional comments, additional information, use those space. If there's anything you want to tell us on the application that you weren't able to tell us anywhere, if you have a change of curriculum, change of school, because of COVID, you were not able to participate in certain competitions and things like that, or you had to relocate because of that, that affected your academic ability, or if there's family situation that prevented you from getting your grades or your classes, anything you want to explain, use the additional comment, okay? That is the space really for you to explain it. And then also the UC do not use letter of recommendation, so do not send us anything. So it's very important that you know that everything you put in the UC application is everything we're going to see. So even if you put YouTube links, all those links on the application, we're not going to be able to review it. And like Beatrice is saying, SAT, ACT, completely free, completely test blind. So even if you submit the scores, we're not going to be seeing it. Okay, so that's just something that you have to understand. We're not going to be able to use any of those for admissions scholarship purpose. All right, moving on to giving you an example of personal insight question. So I don't know if you remembered, a couple of slides ago, we had a student that who was the house captain, who also played tough rugby. This is actually one of her personal insight questions answered. So if you could take a minute to read it, and then we can talk a little bit about it. I'm going to have a couple more examples the next slides. Yes, it's totally okay that you don't have SAT score because of COVID, because we don't even look at it. Sorry, it just popped up, so I thought I'd answer that. All right, so if you have read this quickly, I'd say this personal insight questions is very well written, very well answered. However, I want to say that if you remember what I said, this personal statement actually, this personal insight question actually spent too much space explaining instead of using the space to add value to this activity or how they have personally grown from it. Okay, because we want you to use the space to actually provide information that how you have grown, how you have learned, how you have been challenged. These are the things that we hope to see on a personal insight question answer, because really is somewhere that we get to know you. So I would say your academic history would tell us, how well you can study, how well you can do. But your personal insight question is really that tells us who you are, because this is where we can see your personality. Like I said, no letter recommendation. So this is where we kind of get to know you as a person. So make sure, please don't give us too much background information. Talk about yourself, talk about what you have learned, talk about what you have gone through. Next slide, please. So this is the next example that I want to talk a little bit about. So if you can take a quick look on what's on the left. I mean, I want to say that there is no wrong answer for person insight questions. There's only your answer to person insight questions. So anything you want to share with us is totally okay in the person insight questions. But sometimes what we call on the left-hand side, what we call missed opportunity. Students do talk about, like what being a leader means to them. And then they want to decide, they realize who they are and who they want to become. And then over the next few hours, they gather their thoughts and try to recall the experience of freshmen. And now I have a better understanding where everyone's coming from. It really doesn't really tell us who they are. It's just talking. It's kind of like they're kind of recalling like a piece of memory of things, but really didn't really talk about like how they have grown, what they have learned. On the right-hand side, this example gives us more of a solid example of, what they have done. They met with the representative from community organization. They helped to find solution. They, draft the resolution to help the school district, and how they kind of make things happen. It doesn't have to be things like that. This is just an example. But I always tell students that it's a good space for you to talk about what you have learned. Good or bad, we want to know all about it. It doesn't always have to be good things. It doesn't always have to be something that it's like super traumatic or anything. And of course, I think for the last year and a half, 2 years, a lot of us have living in such space that a lot of really bad things could happen, and you can talk about it. There's a lot of space that you can talk about it, and you can talk about what you've learned, what you've grown. And a lot of students also talk about like their losses, in the person insight questions, which is totally okay. You can express yourself that way. So again, we're not grammar teachers, we're not English teachers. So really answer the questions directly, give us example that helps us to understand a little bit more. The link on the bottom is a really useful link that we can probably drop in the chat later on too. It's a person insight question worksheet that actually help you to get started if you haven't started your person insight questions yet. Right. So that was a lot about the whole application, everything, from, academic history to SAT, ACT test free to person insight questions. If you want to learn more about all our activities and events happening, we have so many things that's happening on the virtual space right now. I think I want to say that is very good for students who usually won't have access to this. So if you want to learn a little more about, our future events, all 3 of our campuses have a lot of future events that's happening for students, for parents, open house online. I would encourage you to scan our codes and, just to kind of get to know us a little bit better if you're interested. And I think now it's time for Q&A.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, San, and thank you, B and Jenny as well for all of the insight. And there's just so much. It's definitely, there are a lot of things to pack into the application, and we only kind of like got to focus on a couple items. So again, I do encourage you to, especially if you have campus specific questions, you should definitely go and do the virtual tour, get into the info session. There are counselors who are waiting to talk to you. So I see some very specific questions on the Q&A about campuses. And so if you have a really specific question, I would really encourage you to do this. That being said, let's see, where do I even start? Okay, let's go to the activities and awards because we talked about that a bit. And there is a question here about kind of like, do you need to verify those? Do you need to have like award? I mean, like, do you need to like have a certificate or do you need to have like, I don't know, some kind of verification from a teacher or something like that? What's the rule? Is there a rule for that for UCs? Are you looking at that? How do you kind of verify it?
So the answer to your question is, a student should be able to verify anything that they put in their UC application, okay? We are not necessarily going to go through and ask for a student to prove every single activity and how long they've been in that activity necessarily. However, the UC system does pull randomly a selection of students each year to ask them to actually demonstrate that what they put in their application for activities and awards is accurate. So you can be selected to actually ask to provide proof of that activity. So again, you know, whatever you put in should be as accurate and thorough to the best of your abilities. And there's a possibility you could be pulled.
Great. Anything to add for that? I know that's for activities awards. Is that also for like grades and things like that?
That's a really good follow-up question, Gloria. So for academic history, so everything on the UC application, like we said, everything is self-reported. Like B said, you know, we could verify the activities in terms of academic history. For example, if you apply to 3 UC campuses, say Davis, Santa Cruz, and Riverside, you got into all 3 of us. At the end, you decided to go to Santa Cruz because game design is the best major, right? That's what you decided to do. That's when you send Beatrice's office the transcript. Your counselor send your transcript, okay, or your high school. So you don't have to worry about sending things right now or when you're applying through the application. Have your unofficial transcript right next to you, like Jenny said in the beginning. When you input all the grades, all the course name and everything, it should reflect exactly the same as your transcript. Because even though we don't verify in the front, we actually verify in the back end. When you got admitted, by May 1st, you decided you're going to come, right? And then by July 1st, you're sending all your transcript, July 15, all your test scores and everything. Then the UC office will verify every grades that you have. If there's anything that doesn't match up, there is a chance that we will withdraw our decision. And also if there's any changes. So for example, if a student saying that I'm going to take 4 AP exams, and then later on decided they're not going to do it at all, right? You are supposed to update the UCs that you have applied to. And once you submit your application, say you apply to 3 UC campuses, you get 3 emails from each of our campus telling you that, thank you for applying. Here's the admission portal to access. If there's anything you want to update us, talk to each of us individually. Okay, that is very important. Check your email often. Respond to your emails. It's very important, please. So really get in the habit to check your email. If you have a school email that you use, that's great. Use it for your college application. If you don't have an email that is dedicated to your college application, your university application, I say create one. Because if you use your, I don't know, like 178972341 at qq.com, right? I'm just making it up. You know, you get so many emails in those emails account that you might be missing important communication from the university you really want to go to. So create an email account that you are the only person, student, meaning you as a student, you are the only person who have access to it. Get in the habit checking your email. If we need any information from you, if anything is missing in your application, or if we need to take a quick look on your unofficial transcript, we're going to email you, we're going to message you. So check them. It's very important.
Yeah. And I wanted to jump in here because I saw another question that was in the Q&A and chat about what happens if I have an accomplishment after I've submitted the UC application, which I think is a really important question to answer. And the answer is it significant? Like, is it like a big award? Is not like a small award, something, you know, not, you know, necessarily huge, but is it really, really big and important? Because the reality is that anything that you send us after the UC application closes, other than changes and updates to your academics, we're really not necessarily going to consider. Okay, you have to understand at the University of California, we saw a 16% increase in applications. That means we saw over 160,000 applications from everywhere around the world. Okay, we just can't. We don't have time. to actually review and take into account every single update to someone's extracurricular activities after they've submitted the application. So the reality is that if you think you're going to get an award in the spring for some reason, you can list it in your activities and awards section. And then there's a section in the application where you can put comments and you can say, likely to be awarded in spring 2022. Yeah, you can say that to us, right? Now, the only other place where we may take into account updates such as significant awards would be in an appeal process. So if you were denied to one of our campuses for some reason, you could submit that information as an update, new and compelling information. So this is the other thing I want to say. A lot of times students get denied and then they want to appeal. And if they appeal, they don't give us any new information other than, I really love your campus and I really, really want to come, which we love. But the reality is that's not new information. Mm-hmm. That's not updated information. So if you, for some reason you were denied and you appeal, remember, we are looking for new and compelling information to even consider that appeal.
So it might give our audience a little bit of color, and you don't need to go into the crazy detail about this, but kind of your process as an admissions office review wise. You've got 160,000 applications. So, and we've heard from some other kind of smaller institutions, and they might talk about first reads, second reads, committee. What does it look like for UC? In terms of, because as we think about first read versus, obviously as much information, it should be as complete as possible at the first read, and we don't want to keep, updating. But what is are you able to give a little color on what the process is like?
I can go first. I want to say each UC campus is a little different, like the way, we all, have comprehensive holistic review. The way we do in Davis is that there is 6 of us on the international team, and we're the only people who actually review applications for students who actually have a high school record outside of the US. So what it means is American citizen who lives in Singapore our team will be reviewing it. What that means is that we also specialize in region. So for example, I specialize in Greater China region. So I would get, we would have 2 reads. Like you said, Gloria, in Davis, we do 2 reads, 2 human reads. Okay. So, if then the 2 people don't agree with, our recommendation, then it goes to a 3rd read to a more senior evaluators. Then they will make a decision based on, the 2 readers and our comments and things like that. So I want to say we don't have we read every single application. We do. There is no GPA cap or things like that. We read all of them. And then that's just kind of how we do in Davis. And also because we specialize in regions. So sometimes if I'm reading application from places that I'm not as familiar with, I'll be checking with my colleague who specialize in those regions and ask them for their expertise, because a lot of times that when you're specializing in region, at least that's what we believe in Davis, is that you will have better knowledge on how to evaluate schools, because even within one country, there are so many different types of schools, public school, private school, government, all those different types of school and different programs and things like that. So we find it helpful that I think we've been using this model since I have joined the team. So I think it's been working for us, and we'll be able to find students who fits the Davis personality, who also, kind of want to come to us and things like that. So I think I'm telling you everything I can. I'm supposed to.
And I appreciate we don't need to but that gives color that really someone is reading, and that is reading. And so you do want to have all of your stuff right from the beginning.
Yeah. And we do read the additional information, so additional comment, we all stress about the comments. If you have change of school, change of curriculum, whatever they are, tell us, because under holistic review, we do take everything into consideration, and we do want to see students making the most out of what is available to them. But what is available to them is different, varies by students, even if they go to the same school, because that could be family background, all these different things, right? So you are your own advocate. So use that space. And like Jenny said in the beginning, really, really spend time on the application. Don't try to do it in one day because I wouldn't say it's a very difficult application. I think it's a very time consuming process. So I honestly, like, I don't think it would take you a very long time to fill it out. I'm sorry, it won't take a lot of effort to fill out. I think it just takes different time. So like Jenny said, have time blocks, work on it one portion every week. And by November, it'll be ready.
Great. Jenny, did you want to add? Because I know
Yeah,
Riverside has
sure.
a different process, but.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's not, I'm not gonna talk about the process but I wanted to emphasize about the logistics. As everyone, as like San and B, we all mentioned earlier before, is that we consider every student in a different context. So the more exact information or accurate information that you provided to us, we will take into your consideration. Then no matter where you're coming from, even during the evaluation process, that we take those information into account. So that is very important. And please also do trust us in a very fairly, a very fair evaluation process. Because I saw there was a question asking about the whether the international students will get the same chance to get enrolled or getting accepted to the UC system. Please do have confidence in us that we have experts that have been understanding different education system and about the different course curriculum, that we will take all the different situations into account and to evaluate you as a complete person.
They're international specialists. Great. Well, so we can't not talk about test-free. That is definitely a question that there's still some murky unclarity. And so let's talk about test-free. And just to confirm, test-free means you are not looking at SAT or ACT scores. You're just not even looking at them. So if somebody tries to submit it, it's not considered, it's not looked at all.
Literally, yes.
Literally not
literally
even.
If the student lists it, it is blocked in the application. I, as a reader, cannot see that information. Okay, so we're not going to have it at all. If for some reason, however, a student needs the SAT for the purposes of meeting English proficiency, the UC system actually takes that score in and then tells the campus this student is meeting English proficiency. So we still don't see the score. The UC system actually just tells us. So I just really want to emphasize how much this is different. And that's kind of why we wanted to come in here and talk to you all. But just remember, even before this policy went into effect, we never once used a single one factor in making the decision. So even without the standardized tests, we're still essentially following our comprehensive review process, which is what we keep talking about today, is looking at all of those different factors.
Yeah, there is a specific question, I think with the 13 components, there's a specific question, like if ACT and SAT scores are not considered, will GPA be considered more heavily? I guess there's a question of weight.
Yeah.
Components.
So I just want to emphasize something else that San talked about, which is that each of our campuses does comprehensive review slightly differently. So welcome to the UC system. We're one system and we do it all differently. Sorry. But I want to say one of the things that's, that I was talking about is that what has taken on a little bit more weight is, again, looking a little bit more carefully at the number of classes a student has taken, the rigor of those courses, the overall preparation a student has had in math and English in particular. And, we do look at the GPA, but remember, it's not that any one thing is taking on more weight. It's just that we're going to look at all of those things even more carefully and even more holistically.
Yeah, and I think one thing to add is that we do need a strong academic foundation for UC education. So we don't only want you to get into one of us, we want you to get in, have a successful college career, graduate, because that's when your parents are most proud of. It's my kid graduated from this school. Not only my kid got into this school, right? Because what's good about getting it? I mean, I think graduating college is the more difficult part than getting in. The same goes to if you put in falsify information in your application, it doesn't get you very far. Even if it got you into some school, you might learn in a hard way in the future. So I do encourage you to, stick with what you're studying, stick with your curriculum, be honest on your application. So that will be important.
Great. And this is a bit like controversial, but let's say someone's like, I took the SAT and I'm so proud of it, and I want to tell you anyway, even though you're test free. And so can I write it in my PIQ? Can I write it in my additional comments? Like, is that going to mess up? What do you do with that?
You want to go?
No, go ahead, Sam.
I'm putting you on the spot. And if you're like,
well, I want to say that it's like any additional link that you put on the personal insight, the PIQ or the additional comments. Like if you put your YouTube channel on there, we're not going to look through it. Same thing. Like we're just going to ignore it. So you're more than welcome. Like Damien, I also saw your comment. You're more than welcome your students are more than welcome to put it there, but we're just going to ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And that's a great point about the YouTube channel and everything else. Great, wonderful. I'm not going to click on it. And so if you list your SAT or ACT scores, it's going to be like, great, ignore, next.
Focus on the things that do matter. Focus on the things that do matter, which is doing well in school and really contributing to your community and participating in those activities. Like that's going to be the time that's going to be the thing that is actually important. So, and let's see, I have another question here. About, San, you mentioned, if you're an American student in Singapore, international team is looking at it. What if you're in California, but you're a Chinese citizen, for example? How are you considered at that point? International student versus
so in
domestic
terms
student?
if they have done all high school in California, and the way Davis do it is the students application would go to our California team who review the application, because they have a 4 year of high school in California, like all full grade 9, 10, 11, 12 in California. If they have a mixed records of like 2 years in China, 2 years in California, then our team will look at it. So that's how we do it. I don't know, is that okay,
consistent across the board? Great.
Yeah, in terms of admissions, that's how we would do it, like review the application. That's how we would divide the work, just because it doesn't need international knowledge to there's different contexts of California high school.
Great, thank you. Okay, and then I'm jumping around a little bit because a lot of questions are coming in from our China stream as well. Summer programs. Where do those go? Activities and awards or somewhere else?
Yes, activities and awards. So they can just, if they are a college level, like if they're college bearing, credit bearing, they would add it in their academic history. And then if they are just like enrichment programs, like if they're learning like US cultures, things like that, that I would say that goes to, because for those like credit bearing ones, we will need to get a transcript at the end, back end. So if there's no transcript issued, no credit transferring, anything like that, they put it in extracurricular activities. And then also I would say, even if you just attend like a US culture or whatever class, it doesn't really add value to it. I think you should, like the students should talk a little bit about like what they've learned, what they've gained, things like that to help us understand like, why is this important to them? Why did they want to do it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. Great. Well, we're at the hour already. So I want to be respectful of my colleagues' time, especially those that are in Asia and need to get to bed. But I'm going to put the information back up so that you all can see who you need to email if you didn't get your question answered. So this is contact information. Make sure that you reach out. Again, go to these campus specific events to get more information. And we are just delighted that my colleagues could join me today. Thank you for taking time. Again, if you didn't give your high five yet, please give it this week, because admissions officers are going to give high fives back and give you some messages this week. In the meantime, enjoy. I know the college application process is stressful. Take the time to reflect, ask good questions, have conversations so that you are not fixated on the wrong things. So thank you so much for your time, and have a great afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are. Take care. Bye.